Welcome to the show, everybody. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. And, of course, my website, beyondreasonradio.com. There's a lot we have to talk about in this show today. A lot of stuff that is definitely beyond reason. Later in the show, I'm going to talk about the problems with bringing the Syrian refugees into the United States. President Obama has decided we want to bring 10,000 of them over. We'll just bring them in, let them in. No biggie. We'll just let them in the country. That's it. And other than the national security issues, there's actually some other very serious problems with doing that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get that later in the show. If you want to call in, 407-674-1025 or toll free 855-545-1025. This hour is brought to you by Doc's Streetside Grill. And I have exciting news about Doc's Streetside Grill. On Wednesday, during the debate, Wednesday night starting at 6 for the second tier debate, and then we'll be there for the main debate. At Doc's Streetside Grill, we're having a debate viewing party. So I'll be there. Bud will be there. Mike, you'll be there, right?
I will be there.
Yep, Mike, the intern, will be there. By the way, how are you,
Whoa,
Mike?
whoa. Let's
Did
pause.
I say to call the intern again?
You just said Mike the intern. I thought we were past this. I thought we had something better
I'm sorry.
here. It's okay.
Tyler's the intern now.
She can be our intern.
I'll be the intern. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler is here, by the way, joining us again. We didn't scare her away
Somehow.
last week. Yeah, I don't know. We'll try. We'll try again this week.
Oh yeah, this is round 2. We'll scare her away eventually.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
exactly. So, Mr. Michael Formisano, executive producer of Beyond Reason Radio. I
Good
had
evening.
a flashback to when he was an intern, and he's probably going to kill me after the show, but just wait till after the show. That's fine. But yeah, we're going to be at Doc's Streetside Grill Wednesday night, Doc's Streetside Grill. I'm going to be there. So you'll get to hear my debate analysis during the debate. What is it? That's what everybody wants to do.
It doesn't get much more real time than that.
That's what I mean. When they're watching the debate, they're going to be like, what does Yaffee think about this anyways? So then they'll get to hear it. So join me. Make sure to join me Wednesday night and Thursday, the next day, outside of Orlando City Hall. We are going to be celebrating Constitution Day. Constitution Day is September 17th. It is Thursday, and nobody even knows it. We celebrate Labor Day, we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, and none of those really have much to do with our country. But Constitution Day, we wouldn't have anything else if it were not for the Constitution. So we're going to be outside Orlando City Hall. There's going to be great guest speakers. There's going to be great music. Bud's going to sing the national anthem. I'm going to be there and speak.
Bud singing the national anthem.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
I know. I told him that's going to be the biggest draw.
Wow. Yeah. Everyone needs to come out and see that. That is a prize right
It is.
there.
And he's actually a good singer.
He's a great singer.
By the way, if you don't know who Bud is, if you're just a fan of my show, I produce the morning show here on News Radio 102.5. Bud is the host. I'm the producer. I'm going to be speaking as well on Constitution Day. So, and I'm going to give you a little bit of preview of what I'm going to be talking about at the event. But it's going to be a great event. We're handing out pocket constitutions and the other prizes, guest speakers, a bunch of fun. But this is Orlando's chance to show the world that we still celebrate and support the Constitution. I want to make this an annual thing. I want to make this a yearly thing where we come out and do this. And I want it to get bigger and bigger every year. So Constitution Day is celebrated across the country because it's important. It is important. So I want you to join me outside of Orlando City Hall this coming Thursday. I'll be there to speak. Now, today is Patriot Day, as many of you know. We're remembering September 11th. And now it's called Patriot Day, which I think is a good name for it. Just thinking about September 11th in our history. In our history on September 11th, it was a dark day. Our country was being attacked. A lot of people, a lot of patriots died. It made us question the future of the country. It made us question our security. It made us question if this was possible. The idea of America. to continue on. It was a disaster for everything. Now, you might be thinking I'm talking about September 11th, 2001. And in a way, I am talking about September 11th, 2001. But actually, what I'm talking about happened in our history before that. It happened September 11th, 1777. A lot of people don't know that that was a significant day in our history as well. September 11th, 1777. There were troops in Pennsylvania, American patriot troops fighting for the idea of America, fighting for the revolution, the idea of the Declaration of Independence. Under General George Washington, they were at a place called Brandywine, or Brandywine Creek. And there was a major battle fought there, September 11th, 1777. It was a tough battle, but we lost. We lost that battle. A lot of Americans died. Not only that, but because of that, the Continental Congress, which was meeting in Philadelphia at the time, had to flee. They had to flee Philadelphia if they wanted to stay. They didn't want to be captured. The troops, it basically took away all hope of George Washington taking back New York. Not too long after that, the British, after defeating the Americans at Brandywine on September 11th, eventually took Philadelphia, which was the place of the Declaration of Independence. September 11th, 1777 was a dark day in our history. But as you know, we fought back. Even though it seemed like the war wasn't going well, even though it seemed like the idea of America maybe won't work, even though it seemed like the American Revolution, the ideas of the Declaration of Independence would not work, we came back. It took many years of hard fighting. It took many sacrifices. It took many losses up until the point. But the idea of America won. The American Revolution won. General George Washington, who had a major defeat on that September 11th, 1777, came back and won. Eventually, they would defeat the British at the Battle of Yorktown. That was the deciding battle. But it took years. It took hardship. And even after they defeated the British, there was still hardship. The country was not doing well economically. It was very divided. But eventually they would come together. Eventually they would create the Constitution of the United States. Eventually, through all that trouble, they would come back. Interesting. You know, I'm thinking about Constitution Day. Give you a little preview of our Constitution. A little preview. You know, I talked about how after September 11th, 1777, it took many years to fight back, and it took many years to get our Constitution back. But even in September 11, 2001, we're still fighting back. You fast forward from September 11, 1777 to September 11, 2001. Back to what I was saying, though. On September 11, 2001, they thought they attacked the main parts that made this country great. They were attacking our economy, the World Trade Center. They were attacking military and the Pentagon. And they were attacking they were trying, they didn't succeed, but they wanted to attack our capital, which was our government. Those three things, they thought that was what made America great. But then, what happened with that third plane? When they tried to attack our government, what happened? Well, they didn't succeed. Because on Flight 93, ordinary but extraordinary Americans stood up for they stood up against the terrorists. And they brought down that plane. Unfortunately, they were killed doing it. But they showed what truly makes America great. They showed what truly makes America great. It's not our economy. It's not our military. It's not even necessarily our government. Washington ain't making America great right now. But it's those first three words of the Constitution. And that is, we the people. It was we the people. It was ordinary people that fought back on Flight 93. It was we the people, ordinary people, that went into those trade centers, police, firefighters, to help people get out. It was we the people, ordinary people, that decided to sign up for the military and fight for our country. We the people. Those first three words of the Constitution. That was why they put that there. That is what makes America great. And that is what our Constitution enshrines. Our foundation is not our economy, our military, people in Washington. It is you. It is the people. And it is, of course, God. A people who believe in God. We, the people. Mike, just let me know when you get the system back online. This happens. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on Constitution Day. A little bit of what I just said. Because I have to ask. After the Constitutional Convention, it was reported that some people asked Ben Franklin, so what'd you guys give us? What'd you give us? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it. Have we kept it? In a lot of ways, we're still a republic. In a lot of ways, our Constitution is still there. But there's so much. We have gone so far away from the original intent of the founders, from the original intent of the Constitution. We're not doing the greatest job of keeping it. We're not keeping our responsibility of keeping the Constitution like we should be. I'm going to talk more about this coming after the break. And I also want to get Mike, producer's take on his memories from September 11th, and Tyler's take on September 11th. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio, News Radio 1025 WFLA, BeyondReasonRadio.com.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. Now, back to Beyond Reason Radio.
Oh, Mike, that was fun, huh?
Oh, boy, I earned my stripes today.
Well, that happened this morning. I don't know why it's happening now, but we're in a new studio now.
Yeah.
This is a little inside baseball for everyone listening out there on the radio. Apparently, it's not even working on iHeartRadio now.
Yeah, we're having issues broadcasting on iHeart.
If any of your friends trying to listen to iHeartRadio, tell them to go listen on my website, beyondreasonradio.com. It is up and running there.
Yes, we're also on Ustream and Spreaker.
Right, Ustream and Spreaker. But the Ustream is on my website.
Yes, that's the easiest thing to do. Just
Yeah, and
beyondreasonradio.com.
it should be broadcasting them as long as I'm in the right buttons on 1 and 4 and everything.
I believe we're back now. For just a little inside information out there, we are in a new studio for the time being. It's beautiful.
And everything just shut down.
Everything
on you,
just,
which is always fun.
It looked at me, laughed a little bit, and then everything went blank. So that happened. We're back now. So Shoebox Studio. Let's do this. You are.
All right. Well, I want to get back to a little bit of what I was talking about before, because apparently, like half my audience, I was trying to listen on the stream, could not hear me. So they are probably listening now on my website, beyondreasonradio.com. This is why, by the way, just do this every time. Just go to my website, go to beyondreasonradio.com and listen there. I make sure that works every week. But what I was talking about in the last segment, and I'm going to get Mike involved and Tyler involved as well, now that we're back to normal here in the studio. A little bit entertaining tonight. Anyways, what I was talking about is on 9/11, the terrorists, they attacked us, what they thought were the 3 things that made this country great. I mean, think about what they attacked on 9/11 and think about, we think those are the foundations of America. Those are the foundations of our country. It's our military, Pentagon, our economy, the World Trade Center. What bigger symbol of our economy were the 2 towers, the Twin Towers in the World Trade Center? And then they tried to attack our seat of government, the Capitol building. Those were the 3 things they thought would make America great, and they wanted to symbol how they were going to destroy America. But I'm telling you right now, they were wrong. Those things are not what makes America great. Yeah, they help. Yeah, they're good things. Yeah, I want all 3 of those things to be strong. But that's not the foundation. That is not what truly makes this country great. And what proved that was actually what happened on 9/11. Flight 93. Ordinary Americans, ordinary but extraordinary Americans, stormed the cockpit because they knew they were going to try to crash that plane into something. They didn't know what. It's going to be the Capitol. The terrorists didn't succeed because ordinary but extraordinary Americans went in the cockpit, stormed the cockpit, stopped the terrorists, and unfortunately they died as heroes, bringing it down. But that showed what the real foundation of this country is. And that is the first 3 words of the Constitution of the United States. We the people. When we are a good people, a strong people, a country of, by, and for the people, that is what makes us strong, and that's what the terrorists do not understand. That is what they do not understand. But because we are a country of the people, by the people, for the people, because it is we the people that make this country strong, the people of this country also have a responsibility. They have a responsibility to keep this republic. And I said this in the last segment as well, for all those you were not listening. Not able to listen, apparently. Ben Franklin, after the Constitutional Convention. By the way, we're celebrating Constitution Day. We're celebrating this Thursday. I'm going to talk about what I'm talking about now. Outside Orlando City Hall, we're having a big rally. I want a bunch of people to show up and celebrate what makes this country great, the foundation, the Constitution of the United States, and we the people. Benjamin Franklin, he was asked after the Constitutional Convention, so, what'd you give us? What'd you guys give us? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. And this is my question for you, 407-674-1025. Have we kept it? It is our responsibility to keep it, but we are losing it. We have an administration right now that has gone way beyond the powers of the Constitution, and most of the American public doesn't care. Most of we the people don't care. We have a Congress that goes way beyond the Constitution. Does the American public care? We have a responsibility to fight back and stand up for the Constitution of the United States. Or public, if we can keep it. So I want you to join me on Thursday outside Orlando City Hall, 5:30 p.m., in a symbol of support to fight back for the Constitution. All right, I'm going to move on from this topic. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about another thing that I think is really important. I'm going to talk about the church. Yes, I know there's a lot of political things going on. There's a lot of other Beyond Reason stuff going on in the news, and I'm going to get to that. But I'm also going to talk about the church. Because God has to be our foundation. Has to be the foundation of we the people. Has to be the church. But there's problems with our church. There's problem with churches in this country. But I found an article from one pastor who had a very interesting perspective on this. I found this on Fox News, on the opinion section of all places. He had a very interesting perspective on the church and the future of the church. He was a pastor of a mega church, a successful pastor in worldly terms. But then he decided he wasn't doing God's work and he left. We're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about what I promoted earlier in the day. 90% of Muslim immigrants from Syria and the Middle East, refugee immigrants right now, are on food stamps. And yet we want to invite more of them in. Unbelievable. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio on News Radio 102.5 WFLA and BeyondReasonRadio.com.
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio. Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com.
Well, I just wish I controlled everything on my own. Because when I control it on my own, it works. I'm not bashing Mike. I'm saying the iHeart Radio stream hasn't been working. So people trying to listen to me on the iHeart Radio app isn't working.
Yeah, we're having some glitches today.
So if you're listening on the radio and your friends are like, why can't I hear Yaffee? Tell them to go to my website, BeyondReasonRadio.com. The stream is working on there. I don't know what the deal is with iHeart Radio. It hasn't been working all day. I told them earlier. Apparently they didn't listen to me, so whatever.
When you go to the website, it's on the side, on the right-hand side of the page is where you click. Because if you click on the top, it's going to play the last show.
Right. So, and you can do that every week. I always post it up there. That's why I always tell people to go to my website, BeyondReasonRadio.com. So, anyways, it is working on the radio. So, I just had a bunch of people text me. They're probably just tuning in now because I had people texting me and posting on Twitter trying to listen, which is good because that means people listen. But, yeah, it's... And by the way, I post the podcast of every show after the show on Beyond. After the show, I post the podcast on my website, Beyond Reason Radio.
We're
Okay, just checking. Somebody said it went out. So many technical difficulties today. Okay. I want to talk about something that I saw because I think this is important. I saw this. It was from foxnews.com. And this is the title. And like I said, I could talk about Trump some more. I could talk about the Iran nuke deal. I could talk about all this other stuff going on. But I thought this was really important. So I wanted to talk about this. How I dumped the mega church model and found something bigger. This is a pastor. He was a pastor of a mega church. See, the church is declining in this country, unfortunately. Less and less people are going to church. Less and less people are involved in the faith. And that's really the foundation of this country, is faith. Faith in God and faith in Jesus. And I'm not afraid to say that behind this microphone. I'm not afraid to say it. But why is the church declining? That's really the question. Why is the church declining? Well, one pastor thinks he knows. He said, God confronted my self-centered ambition one afternoon when I was praying for our city. I was praying for a massive spiritual awakening in our city, the kind that would change the shape of our city for the next 200 years. In the midst of that prayer, it seemed as if the Spirit of God asked, and what if I answer this prayer, but I don't use your church to do it? Interesting, right? Think about that for a sec. This is a guy, he's a pastor of a big church. He thinks he's doing God's work, but he realized something. He realized that his main goal was not to spread the kingdom of God, to bring people to Jesus, to bring people to the faith. He realized his main goal was to bring people to his church. Should that be the goal of a pastor of a church? Should that be the goal of your church? He said, God confronted myself. He said, God asked, but what if I don't use your church? What if another church in his area leads the way? Would you still want it? This is an honest question for a pastor of a big church. What if, this is God saying, what if God says, look, I don't want to use your big church to help this city. I want to use this other church. Why, God? Because it's my will and I know what's best. Would you be okay with that, pastor of a big church? Or do you don't want everyone to just go to your church? Do you want everyone to just go to your Sunday service? Is that the solution? Now, he says, I knew the right answer to that question. I was supposed to say, oh, yes, Lord, you must increase and I must decrease. It may have been the right answer, but it was not the real answer, he said. He said, I wanted to see my church succeed, my kingdom enlarged, my name magnified. In that moment, I realized that somewhere along the way, thy kingdom come had become all jumbled up with my kingdom come. See, this is the biggest problem with a lot of churches today, and I think this pastor, and by the way, this is very newsworthy. You're all saying, oh, this is supposed to be a news program. The church is declining in our country. You just look at every poll, every stat. Morality is declining in our country. Just look at every poll, every stat. Look at pop culture. The only thing that can save it is free people who have faith in God. But they need a fellowship to go to. We're called to come together as believers. But it's never been the goal. Well, it has been the goal, but lately it has not been the goal of pastors to bring people to Christ. Too many pastors in this country, the goal is to bring people to their Sunday service. They think that is the end-all, be-all of church. Their Sunday service. But it's not supposed to be my kingdom come. If I'm a pastor, it's not supposed to be about my church, my kingdom come, my Sunday service, my sermon. It's not supposed to be about that. It's supposed to be about his kingdom, God's kingdom, thy kingdom come. He said he went back to his church and told them he had been leading them wrongly. This is pretty profound, coming from a pastor. He could have just stayed every way. He could have made money, had a huge church, seemed as successful. But that's not what it was about. He said it is no longer to build a great church. It is to reach our city and to take the gospel to places in the nation where Jesus is not known. If God grows our church in the process, so be it. But if he takes us If he takes from us some of our best resources and people and sends them out to start new works, that's okay too. This is amazing. If more pastors could see this. He said, it's time we as pastors return to Jesus' strategy for reaching our nation. To do that, we're going to have to first die to ourselves, to our ambitions in ministry, to our dreams, to our hopes of a comfortable life. We should remember we are called by one who came not to be served, but to serve, who though he was rich for our sakes became poor, so that we, through his poverty, might become rich, and beckons us to follow him. It's pretty profound. I want your take on this. 407-674-1025. What do you think is the problem of the church? Is this guy hitting on something? He says the pie of the church is shrinking. He says without a new strategy, the future looks like a few flashy mega churches fighting for larger pieces of a shrinking pie. There's less and less Christians in this country every year. And there's these big mega churches. And you think you get enough people into the building, you think you've solved the problem. Yet morality in the country declines. People will still go hungry. And less people go to the faith. It's because your goal is not correct. Your goal is to bring people to Christ and glorify God in your life. As a pastor, we have to go back to that. And here's the little secret, the dirty little secret that no one wants to talk about, why a lot of pastors' main goal is to bring you to their Sunday service, and that's it. There's a lot of pastors who won't admit it, but they don't care if you're saved as long as you're in that chair. Your butt is in that chair Sunday morning. They don't care if you're saved. All they care is that you put that money in the offering plate. That's not what this is about. It's supposed to be about bringing people to Christ. 407-674-1025. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the news today, a lot of Beyond Reason stuff, and this is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We sift through everything in the news that is beyond reason, and I, of course, am your voice of reason through all that. We talk faith, culture, and politics, and you can call 407-674-1025. Make sure, Thursday, join me as I speak outside Orlando City Hall on Constitution Day as we and Orlando show the world that we still celebrate and support the Constitution of the United States. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio, News Radio 102.5 WFLA, BeyondReasonRadio.com.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio. If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio.
Welcome back to the show. You're listening to the voice of reason that sifts through everything in the news that is beyond reason. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. I want you to go to my website, beyondreasonradio.com. Follow us on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. I'll podcast. I know a lot of you missed the first segment of the show. I'll podcast it on my website afterwards, beyondreasonradio.com. We're also on TuneIn Radio. You can download it on iTunes. Pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast, you can get this show. So there is no excuse. Earlier, we were talking about remembering September 11th. And I talked, I was in high school when that happened. And I was like 16. And I remember going into class and seeing the buildings on fire. I remember being more confused. But I was scared, especially when the Pentagon got hit, because the Pentagon is really far away from the World Trade Center. So the Pentagon gets hit. It's really far away from the World Trade Center. It kind of took away my sense of safety. So there's that. But I wanted to bring in Mike and Tyler. Mike and Tyler. Talk about, because they're younger than me.
A little bit,
So
yeah.
how old were you when that happened?
I was in 4th grade. I was 8 or 9 years old.
So it must be. I mean, what was? And Tyler, how old were you when that happened?
The same. I think I was in 3rd grade though.
3rd grade.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was in high school, so I had a little bit more understanding of the world. But I mean, I can't imagine being in 4th grade, 3rd grade, elementary school, and I mean, what was going through your mind?
It was a lot. It was a lot to take in. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was scary.
I remember. I remember it very well. Still, they actually explained to us. They were very open with us as to what was going on. It actually, it hit a little close to home at first because my mother, and I'm not sure if she's listening right now, but my mom worked for United as a flight attendant, and I believe she had just gotten home from a trip, and she used to fly that route, and early on in her United days. And so, yeah, I remember very well hearing about the 2 planes and just right away thinking, like, oh, we could know these people.
Right.
My mom did know the people. I didn't, but it was a lot to take in. It really was, but I remember it very, very well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who's old enough to remember anything will definitely remember that. Tyler, what about you?
I just remember I really didn't know what was going on, but I remember just being scared because my teacher was crying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I remember like being in the classroom and the TVs were on, and my teacher was crying. So obviously as a little kid, when you see any adult crying, it's, kind of scary. And then they made them turn off all the TVs and they weren't, unfortunately, like Michael, they weren't, very open with us about it. So we didn't really know what was going on.
Really?
We were just kind of scared because our teachers were really flustered and stuff. So
That was actually the initially, before they explained anything to us, though, a teacher came in and whispered something into my teacher's ear, and she freaked out and ran out of the room talking about how her dad lived nearby. And I had no idea what she was talking about. None of us did. It wasn't until later on that they came in and explained it to us, like there's bad people who just did some things to the World Trade Center. They flew a plane into it, and they're trying to find out who's doing this now, and they explained to us why we need to stay indoors. And shortly after, all the parents started showing up.
it's just so scary to think about. Like I still get goosebumps because it's just like if that happened today, I can only like I wouldn't know what to tell a kid that's 8 years old. And so to me, it's just a distant memory. But thinking of that, if that situation happened now where, I realize how big it is, it's just scary.
Well, let me ask you guys another question then, because we talked about this on the morning show and we played some audio. And they went to a college campus, guys your age, and they asked them basic question.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they attack us on 9/11? A lot of the kids did not know the answer to that. They had no idea. Would you guys, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Saw that coming.
Mike,
Yes.
why did the terrorists attack us on 9/11?
It had to do with previous things with America. No, I'm just joking. No, I believe it had to do with
Well, first, who attacked us? That's the question.
Al Qaeda.
Okay, good. I'm glad you got that part right. Go
Yes. Yeah. No. Back. Was it when Bush Senior was in office that it all began?
Not quite. Earlier than that.
Earlier than that.
This is very telling.
Well, it's just. I know.
I'll back you up. I don't know. I know it was Al Qaeda,
I
and I
know-
know stuff happened like in the 90s, right?
Yeah, exactly. I honestly don't know
Why did
what
it-
started it. I just know the results from whatever started it.
Right.
What came after that.
What would you think influences Al Qaeda and terrorists? What is our main influence?
They don't like our freedom.
Okay, that's a good answer. What else? Come on, what do they always say they're doing it for? What do they say before they do it?
it's radical Islam. They're saying they're doing it for Allah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, in my opinion,
Why?
because it's not Islam. It's not real Islam. It's radical Islam, and they think they're doing a good deed. Whereas real Islam, it's not. They don't look at it that way. They don't look at killing people, innocent people, as a good deed. It's not.
Okay, I just want to get your take because this This shows me you guys have to listen to my show more. But
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's why I produce it. To feed.
We only have 2 minutes, so I can't give the whole history lesson. But you're right. I mean, really, that should be the first answer. You were right once you got there. But when someone asks you, you know, why they attack us, it's their religious beliefs, really, that did it.
I feel like a lot of it has to also do with the fact that we were young when this happened. And so when you start asking questions, the only thing that's in our minds is what happened.
Right.
And reliving being young while our country's getting attacked, something we've never seen before.
Right.
So it definitely it makes it more difficult because that's the first thing I think of is what happened. Not really exactly what led up.
And you
to
know
it.
Al-Qaeda did it, and you know there's terrorist groups. But I hear a whole bunch of stuff about how, you know, they attacked us because we were over there, and we could go on for a whole show on that. I've talked about that before. But from everything I've understood, it's a radical religious belief. And really, they attacked their own leaders before they attacked us. And I actually have a call here from Dave from Leesburg. Did I push the right button? Oh, okay. Well, we're pretty much out of time anyways. But from what I understand, they want to keep this radical religious ideology. You know, I'm going to have to talk about this more on my show because we're like out of time. But basically, it's a conflict between our way of life and theirs. What they believe should be the way of life of the world. And our way of life conflicts with theirs. And it has to do with their radical religious beliefs. And that's the core of this. And if we ignore that that's the core, we do it at our own peril. If we try to make some other reason, you can't. If you ignore the religious part of it, the religious ideological part of it, we're not going to be able to defeat the enemy. I thank you all for listening. Join me Thursday, Constitution Day, outside Orlando City Hall at 5:30 p.m. I'm going to be speaking, and I'll see you guys there.